From your favorite source for Chicago White Sox talk, delivering news, interviews, analysis, and more. This is the Sox Machine podcast with your hosts, Jim Margulis, James Fegan, and Josh Nelson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Josh Nelson alongside James Fegan of Sox Machine. This is an emergency podcast. Thank you so much for everyone that's watching us currently on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sox Machine. And for those that are listening to the audio version at a later time on our podcast feed. And we've been wondering, we recorded a new Sox Machine podcast Sunday night. When will the White Sox make a move? Well, they have made a pretty significant move. There was some rumors happening on Sunday night about the possibility of a three-team trade involving the Chicago White Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals and the Los Angeles Dodgers. And it seems after some speculation this morning, more gossip and rumors about this deal, that it is coming down the pipe. As this involves many players here, James, and I'll pull up this tweet. There's been some rebuttal about all the players that are included, but from a White Sox perspective, according to Russell Dorsey of Yahoo Sports, the White Sox are trading Eric Fedde, Tommy Pham, and Michael Kopech in the same deal. The Cardinals are getting Eric Fedde and Tommy Pham. The Dodgers are getting Michael Kopech. The Dodgers are also getting infielder, super utility guy, Tommy Edman from the St. Louis Cardinals. And I think we're still working on to solidify who the White Sox are getting, as there's some dispute from ESPN's Jeff Passan that Noah Miller is not part of the deal, but Miguel Vargas is part of the deal going to the White Sox. So, James, you were telling everyone to be patient. You were receiving text messages this morning from sources about this deal and how it was brewing. What are your thoughts about the White Sox and Chris Getz's first big midseason trade?
I wasn't telling other people to be patient. I was just saying that I was going to hold off on analysis. It's still weird. It seems like people are saying Miller's not in it now. I think Bob's recent report was, I certainly, it seems there was a little mix about whether there was a Cardinals low-level prospect in it, and now hearing maybe not. I'm going to be interested to hear Chris Getz talk about his take on guys, because there's not, Vargas is obviously, started off really good offensively in the majors. I talked to at least one scout today who thinks he really loves the bat. It's his defensive position is really, more up in the air. The Cardinals have played him in corner outfield. He's not viewed as having this, superlative athleticism where he's up the middle type of guy necessarily. So that needs to be clarified. Albertus is probably what I'm hearing the most interesting things about in terms of tools. But even that, it's very raw. He's 19. He's having a rough year in low A right now, which is fine. But he killed the complex leagues. He's rough at the level. You wouldn't freak out about George Wolko being in a similar spot, but he's used as more toolsy one. But it's a lot of contact profiles for kind of the power hitting ballpark the White Sox play in. Certainly, Perez is kind of in the same boat. It's not a lot of raw power in terms of the positional side that they're adding. It's a little bit lower level than they were, certainly shopping in the Cease trade. So that's intriguing, and it's not necessarily guys who are having big spike great seasons right now in the minors, mostly because they're very young for the level that they're in. But it's not filled with people who are wow, he's just killing the Midwest League. So it's definitely where it's a lot of you want to hear their interpretations of things, because the immediate takeaway of what you're supposed to get really excited about is not
exciting
surface.
Yeah. On the surface, this seems like a salary dump for the White Sox. Albertus and Perez, Baseball
There's
America.
not much salary in it.
Yeah, right. There's not much salary involved. Albertus and Perez with Baseball America updating their top 30. Albertus is the 16th ranked Dodgers prospect. Perez is the 18th ranked Dodgers prospect. Miguel Vargas, according to a Dodgers source that I'm texting right now, asking what is Vargas's position, And the first text reads, doesn't have one. He's played 3 different positions for the Dodgers in 3 years. Maybe he's a first baseman. They were tinkering around his swing. He always hit in the minor leagues, but maybe a change of scenery will help Vargas. But then again, he's going to the White Sox, in which we are watching, and we have recently podcasted about how this is the worst offense we have ever seen. So
it's a 108 WRC plus right now, so he's not falling on his face. And by White Sox standards, he'd be like the core of the lineup. So
he's a pillar.
I would try to preface it that's more about what's going to maximize him long term than he's not competitive right now. Like he's shown promise. It's more about, are you going to get the bat to a level where maybe the position matters a little less?
Right. So this is the first big trade from Chris Getz, and are we expecting Getz to speak today, James?
I haven't heard anything about it, but the general thing was he would talk if there was a trade. So 3-team trade makes it more complicated as far as how soon it become official. But if it becomes official today, I would expect him to give at least an immediate kind of summary of it at some point at the ballpark tonight.
So with these three players involved, just from that angle, for Chris Getz to trade Eric Fedde, Tommy Pham, and Michael Kopech in the same deal, and we've talked about this over the years, is that a smart move to package multiple trade assets in one deal to maximize the type of return that you can get back for these players? Or is it better off to trade them separately and try to get maybe Pham, it's just a one-to-one player. Kopech, maybe you get 2 lottery tickets. Fedde was the one that we were hoping that the White Sox could get someone interesting. We've even debated in the past month or so that maybe the White Sox could get a top 100 prospect for Eric Fedde, probably a pitcher, but somebody of intrigue. And right now, until we learn who the 4th player is involved, the White Sox are getting a current major leaguer and 2 guys that are outside of the Dodgers' top 15 prospects in their entire farm system, according to Baseball America. So I guess this is where my confusion lies, and the shock of this particular deal immediately, James, is I'm surprised that Getz went in this direction to include Fedde with Pham and Kopech.
I think it's generally the good way to get more impact than volume. Certainly when you get down to Pham, with the season he's having is a 700 OPS type guy who's, probably should play a corner on a competitive team. And, it's a pure rental. I don't think you're going to really get, a future core piece selling him on his own. And I think Kopech's command problems probably, I obviously think he's more valuable than Pham, but I think put him in a similar boat where you're not really going to get a core piece in response. So packaging them all together, especially kind of maybe your fringier, more mid-level trade or rentals together. Yeah, I think that's pretty smart, or at least a well-trod territory of how to get more impact. It's just a question of, that's what they got, because we're looking at 3 or 4 players. And the immediate, who's the headliner is kind of up for debate. I'm tempted to say Vargas because, he's going to, he's the most proven, and you can see him being a plus hitter because he's done it for a little bit in the major league level already. But I don't think they really have. Yes, Michael Patty that's a shorter version of what I'm trying to say, is that we don't really know what would be the the signature get, or I think it's really remains to be seen, because you don't really see the for sure top 50 guy who's going to be future core of the team. I think it's a lot of projection that they need to kind of need to stake out what their view of what this guy is going to be with a lot of people when they talk to us about it, because it's a lot of very low level, very early in their journey guys, where it seems more like general bat to ball ability is the skill that they've shown, but not necessarily the tools to conquer the league.
Yeah, the Dodger source just texted me again that he's heard very good things about Albertus, the Dodger system, as far as their scouts in the minor league development. Really like the progress that he's made so far this year. So maybe that's someone to keep an eye on. But as far as a headliner, I'm going to assume it's Miguel Vargas, but now we're hearing that it may be a different Vargas. But then again, it's Bruce Levine, so we'll see what is going on again. We're reacting to all the news that's coming down the pipe. We have not received any type of press release from the Chicago White Sox yet. We haven't received anything from the Dodgers and the Cardinals. Again, this is a lot of reporting that's currently on social media right now. Ken Rosenthal, Jeff Passan, Bob Nightingale, everybody's on this right now because it's Monday afternoon, and this is the most involved trade that we have seen before the deadline. Looking at it from the perspective of the St. Louis Cardinals here, to get Eric Fedde and Tommy Pham, I've been surprised because the White Sox, how many road series have they won? One in St. Louis. And I thought, oh man, St. Louis, they're dead. They're not going to make the playoffs. And here they are. They're in second place right now. They got a tough battle uphill to catch the Milwaukee Brewers in the Central. And they also have the Pirates breathing down their neck. But I like this move for the Cardinals because, again, with Fedde, it's just not this season where he's pitched really well. It's also next year for $7.5 million. So I think this is a nice trade for St. Louis to continue to patch up their starting rotation after an offseason where they signed Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn, and Sonny Gray. So do you like this move for St. Louis? Because it also cost them Tommy Edman, James, over to the Dodgers.
I mean, for them, it looks like they cooked. They got, I think they got the best player in the deal and didn't seem to give up mega prospects.
Now they gave up anyone, though? That's the question. Other than Tommy Edman going to the Dodgers, like, who are the White Sox receiving from St. Louis?
I mean, I heard someone really low level, and then I heard no, there's nobody St. Louis in the deal, and at this point, I would love for the White Sox to clear it up and just make it official so I could stop it's bothering people. But yeah, I like Edman a lot. I think he's, how much you want to buy defensive metrics. Like, he put up a 5-win season last year based on kind of the strength of his versatility and, his range metrics. I know the Cardinals found him very useful. I just think with, Mason Wynn emerging and kind of really taking shortstop down, it maybe lessens the immediate need for what he provides a little bit. You can probably find second baseman a little bit more. I think, Pham is a bit of a known commodity for him, and I'm sure they can plug him in situations where he'll succeed a bit more than, you have to bat leadoff every single day and maybe play some center the way he had to here. You could see him flourishing and certainly being happy to rejoin a competitive environment again. But yeah, I think Edman was kind of working his way out of their plans, and certainly they hadn't been able to play with him all year. So they're probably a little bit able to envision how their lineup shakes up without him. And they got, obviously their pitching's a little bit unsteady for both this year and next with how old they tilted towards it with the rotation and not a ton of long-term solutions there. So I think they did awesome. Great for them. It's a bit more, what's the more uncertainty is whether the Dodgers gave up anything they regret long-term. And generally the Dodgers do pretty well in evaluating. So I think whatever extra trepidation is already in place from taking a bunch of 3 low-level guys is like the main kind of future-looking things, or 2 low-level guys and Vargas. I think you weigh on the fact that the Dodgers are usually pretty good at projecting what they need long-term. Jordan Alvarez aside, it probably adds an extra level of trepidation for people who want to see some signs that things are going to turn around sooner than later. Even if I wouldn't say it's a good value play for the White Sox to only hunt for guys who are going to be major league ready by midseason next year. But there's certainly a lot of projection and a lot of development that now has to be counted on for this to really feel like they got something.
Yeah, and Eldon Gonzalez of ESPN, Jeff Passan, just retweeted his colleague. Eldon's been covering the Los Angeles Dodgers for ESPN, obviously with the Shohei Ohtani edition. ESPN adding more coverage for the Dodgers this year. He says that, according to his sources, this is the trade. The White Sox are only getting these players back, and they're all from the Dodgers. They're not getting anyone from St. Louis. Miguel Vargas, Alexander Albertus, and Jarrell Perez. So 2 infield prospects, and Miguel Vargas, who's already played in the majors. So the White Sox are getting a bat that I'm going to assume they can plug right into their starting rotation. Starting lineup as soon as Vargas does reach to Chicago. All right, so that's one trade down, but again, it includes 3 players, James. So there's a lot of speculation that maybe the Dodgers would be interested in acquiring Garrett Crochet, but now they're part of this 3-team trade. We talked about it in the recent podcast episode. Maybe outside of Atlanta, I just don't know how many teams right now have the appetite to meet the asking price for Chris Getz. When it comes to Luis Robert, you have John Brabia still. The White Sox could possibly move, but this was a huge part of what Chris Getz had on hand to trade. So could this be it? Could this be the last move the White Sox make before tomorrow's deadline?
I doubt it. I certainly didn't know if there's, was kind of joking like, is there more coming today? And, got some suggestions that maybe not, but there's certainly more pieces they have. And there's certainly, easier small trades that can make this technically not the only thing they do. I do think it's got at least a decent chance of being the biggest trade, simply both by volume and like anything that went up, it involves Crochet and Robert. And we know that the prices there are such that kind of someone needs to get a little wet and wild in the last 24 hours. It could be the biggest. It also, I think there's enough volume or just simply like trading John Brabia somewhere or that it shouldn't be the only one. But man, it does seem like they put a lot into this return. So it's all on you, Albertus.
Yeah, it's a lot of eggs in one basket. Sean Covington, YouTube, just asked, is Gavin Sheets going to take over right field with Tommy Pham gone? Have you heard like what the speculation was or what the White Sox plans were? Because obviously the expectation was that they're not going to be keeping Tommy Pham the entire season. Is now Sheets the de facto starting right fielder?
Sheets is in the middle of like one of the worst months of his career, so I'd be hesitant to say that, especially the last 2 months and talking about like wanting to see more youth movement. I'd be surprised if that morphed itself into everyday Gavin Sheets. I wouldn't say that either Dominic Fletcher or Oscar Colas are like lighting the world on fire in Charlotte. I feel like Fletcher's been a bit better of recent, but I would, think that a call up would kind of spur a bit more action than, let's just plug Sheets right in the middle of like, career historical struggles into everyday usage in a role that we probably wouldn't want him in long term as an everyday guy anyway. Like, I think the ideal role of Gavin Sheets where he hits like April or, early June the whole way is, a lefty guy who bounces between those positions and DHing and first base as needed, not everyday right fielder. I think so. But maybe the smoke will clear. Maybe, Vargas has played outfield corners. You could mix him in that a little bit where that certainly with Benintendi still kind of entrenched in left field, that could be a spot you put Vargas a little bit, especially if you're out on him as an infielder. I think with a lot of the depth, not that Montgomery or Ramos is necessarily ready at all. I think with a lot of your prospect or positional depth in the infield, maybe you're a bit more inclined to say, let's put Vargas in an outfield corner and roll with that and see how he takes that for the next 2 months.
So before I let you go, because James has got to get to the stadium as he'll be covering the action tonight, and there's going to be pregame meetings for the White Sox as we'll be playing the Kansas City Royals tonight, 3-game series. The game 1 here starts at 7:10. So Dan Perkins and the YouTube chat put in the comment that St. Louis getting Fedde for Edman straight up is wild. Is that how this trade's going to work? Because again, the White Sox are not getting anyone from St. Louis. So is this like the Dodgers trading Vargas, Albertus, and Perez to St. Louis turning around and trading these 3 to the White Sox for Fedde and Pham?
Essentially, I guess that's how you could look at a 3-team trade. I want to say Edman has no. just next year. Great trade for the Cardinals.
James is really liking this return for St. Louis. Looks like they are the clear winner early on. We'll try to figure out what the Dodgers and the White Sox are doing. At least the Dodgers give Michael Kopech. And now Kopech, he's going to be put in some high-pressure situations. So we'll see on how he handles those situations. I don't think he's going to be the Dodgers closer, but come the postseason, he's going to have some big moments in the 6th and 7th innings that he's going to have to help out for the Dodgers. And before I let you go and we conclude this live stream, and thank you everyone for jumping in, as we'll continue to have more news on soxmachine.com as when we get things more firmed up and finalized. Jim Margulis is currently writing for us over there. Drew Boggs, Josh, what if this is the only deal Chris Getz makes? Is this a successful trade deadline? And I don't know how to answer this question right now, James, because you still want to give him some time. He has, as of right now, a little more than 28 hours left in the trade deadline. The immediate reaction in the YouTube comments is no, this would not be a successful trade deadline for Chris Getz. The White Sox need to position players after they used the first round pick on Hagen Smith, and they needed more impact position players into their farm system. I just don't know Albertus and Perez well enough, James, to be a hype man for this trade and get White Sox fans excited. And we'll need to see how Miguel Vargas hits for the White Sox when he does join the major league club. So at this moment, I guess it's the coward move, but I would not want to grade his overall trade season until 28 hours elapses.
I mean, hell, like if Albertus is like your everyday third baseman for 5 years and like flirts with all-star game potential at some point or even makes one, then you look back and the deadline's great. Like I think if Vargas like truly has like a star level bat, even with like positional questions, then I think like the long term, like all of this can look silly. But in the role of we have to give an immediate reaction, I think it would be not a success because it doesn't seem like they got nearly as much return or volume or immediate impact. Given that it was a seller's market and they're perceived to have a lot to trade, and their one return being something where most of the industry is at least skeptical of it, and it's defined by like maybe more unique to the organization opinions of what Vargas and what Albertus's ceilings are. So in the job of giving immediate hot take reactions about something that has years of long-term impact, then I would say no. But the caveats are of course there that like, if they're right about these dudes in this 19-year-old, then they can stun on us forever. That's kind of how the job always works. But as far as like the right now and the kind of answer you're seeking, I would say no, it's not a success. They haven't really maximized kind of the options that they have to sell, and they haven't gotten like this clear like core piece for the future. They have some interesting guys that we're happy as people who cover the team to cover something new, but I don't think they've cleared up doubts about who's going to be powering this lineup in the future in some authoritative way.
Yeah, I guess my immediate reaction, Drew, and I know I'm going to be asked about this when we do other media outlets, TV and radio. It is a head scratcher. How did St. Louis get Fedde and Pham by only trading Tommy Edman? Like, that's the lingering question that I'd like to get more insight on. When the three teams and their general managers or their president of baseball operations break down how these conversations went and how the trade ultimately was fulfilled between the White Sox, the Cardinals, and the Dodgers. And again, there's 28 more hours left to go in the trade deadline. And we will be live streaming the final hour of the trade deadline tomorrow. You guys could join us on youtube.com/Sox Machine, as we'll be live streaming the final hour, breaking down all the moves that happen and see if Chris Getz has any other deals up his sleeve that he wants to accomplish before the trade deadline. But the first trade is a doozy. It's a big one. Again, Eric Fedde and Tommy Pham. to St. Louis. Michael Kopech is going to the Los Angeles Dodgers. The White Sox are receiving Miguel Vargas and 2 infield prospects from the Dodgers that currently rank 16th and 18th, according to Baseball America's updated top 30. We'll have more news about
who really likes both Perez and Albertus for what it's worth, and says Perez has some pull side power and they can all play all 3 positions on the infield. So actually, it's a great trade. We changed everything we said.
Yeah, everything. It's getting better by the minute. Again, James will be at Guarantee Rate Field, so make sure to follow us. We're at Sox Machine. You can follow me at Sox Machine _Josh. Follow James on Twitter if you're already not, for the latest information and news and quotes from Chris Getz's. We are assuming he'll be speaking to the media about this trade once it is finalized, at JR Fegan. You can subscribe to the Sox Machine podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify and Apple Music. And of course, for those that are watching the live stream, please hit the subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for joining us on this Monday afternoon for this breaking podcast as far as emergency show with the Chicago White Sox involved in a 3-team trade. Sox Machine Live is a production of SoxMachine.com, your home for all things Chicago White Sox baseball. Alongside James Fegan, I'm Josh Nelson. Thanks for watching and listening.